Very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television, your one-stop for the day's biggest news stories from India and across the world. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor and here are the headlines. United Nations Security Council calls North Korea's latest missile launch highly provocative. Kim Jong-un says the country nearing the goal of equilibrium of military force with the United States. Islamic State claims responsibility for London attack. 29 people injured after blast at tube station. UK terror threat increased to the highest level. President Ramnath Kovind launches Swachhta Hi Seva campaign, appeals for participation in the mission. Prime Minister also urges people to devote time for the cause. Vice President expresses concern over use of money power in elections, calls for political parties and voters to work together to end the menace. And the Sports Ministry announces a 50,000 rupees per month stipend for elite athletes preparing for Tokyo Olympic, Asian Games and Commonwealth Games. 152 players to benefit. The top story this morning, the UN Security Council has strongly condemned North Korea's latest missile launch. The Council termed it highly provocative. The missile flew over Japan. Now, the UNSC demanded that North Korea immediately halt such actions. The UNSC joint statement was backed by China as well. On the other hand, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said that the country is nearing its goal of equilibrium in military force with the United States. He also vowed to complete his country's nuclear weapons program despite international sanctions. Now, reacting to the latest launch, he said that there is a military option for handling North Korea's nuclear tests, but it prefers a peaceful solution. Washington asked the international community to do everything to address the global problem short of a war.
The press statement by the President of the Security Council condemning the recent launch, calling on the DPRK to stop it, and also, which is important, again reiterating the need for political and diplomatic solution of the crisis, an early one.
As we consider the best defense posed by a hostile regime in North Korea, the least free nation on the planet, we first look to our regional allies, South Korea and Japan. By working with them and other democratic partners, we continue to build consensus at the United Nations Security Council to create a united international front that upholds our values and strives to make us safer. But North Korea is now a global threat, and it requires a global response from all nations.
The developments come after defiant North Korea fired another ballistic missile across Japan on Friday. It was the second aggressive test flight over Japan's territory, further aggravating tensions in the Korean peninsula.
Millions of Japanese woke up to the sound of blaring sirens and emergency phone alerts on Friday as neighboring North Korea blasted its second missile over the country in less than a month. Residents were warned to take shelter while the intermediate-range ballistic missile passed over Hokkaido before landing in the northern Pacific Ocean.
What do you do in a circumstance like that? You're in a little city in Hokkaido.
Japan said it would never tolerate such dangerous, provocative action. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe called for the UN sanctions on North Korea to be imposed firmly.
先般の国連決議で示された国際社会の一致した平和的解決への強い意志を踏みにじり、北朝鮮が再び このような暴挙を行ったことは断じて容認できません。安保理に対して緊急会合の開催を要請します。世界の平和を脅かす北朝鮮の危険な挑発行為に対して国際社会で団結して一致して明確なメッセージを発しなければなりません。
South Korea responded within minutes by firing 2 ballistic missiles into the sea in a simulated strike on the north. President Moon Jae-in also called a National Security Council meeting to discuss the launch.
북한은 무모한 도발을 지속하고 빈도와 강도를 높일수록 그만큼 외교적 고립과 경제적 압박에 따른 몰락의 길로 들어서고 있다는 것을 분명히 깨달아야 할 것입니다.
The United States termed the missile launch a reckless act. It also called on Russia and China to do more to rein in North Korea. China, however, continued to urge for peaceful and diplomatic means to ease the tensions on the Korean peninsula.
制裁不是解决的根本出路，那么当务之急是有关各方立即停止刺激半岛局势进一步紧张升级的危险和挑衅性的言行。
Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull also condemned the missile launch. He too called for tougher punishments against Pyongyang.
This is another example of why it's vitally important to continue to tighten those economic sanctions on North Korea. And I think this latest missile launch over Japan and the violent outbursts of North Korean propaganda threatening Japan and the United States overnight, this shows that the sanctions are working. Because what has happened is that despite a lot of critics who said it wouldn't happen, the United Nations Security Council has tightened up the sanctions. Oil imports into North Korea are being restricted substantially. 90% of their disclosed exports are being prohibited. So the economic screws are tightening on North Korea.
Friday's missile launch is being termed as the longest ever flight of an intermediate-range missile by North Korea till now. According to South Korean authorities, the missile travelled around 3,700 kilometres, reaching a maximum height of 770 kilometres. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And back home, President Ramnath Kovind launched the nationwide Swachhta Hi Seva campaign from Ishwariganj village in Kanpur on Friday. Governor Ram Naik and Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath were also present on the occasion. The fortnight-long campaign will end on 2nd of October on Gandhi Jayanti.
यह शपथ लेता हूं कि सार्वजनिक स्वच्छता हेतु मैं अपने आवास, विद्यालय, स्वास्थ्य केंद्र, बस स्टैंड, जलाशय तथा अन्य सार्वजनिक स्थलों को स्वच्छ करूंगा और स्वच्छ रखूंगा.
President Ramnath Kovind on Friday launched the fortnight-long Swachhta Hi Seva campaign in Kanpur district of Uttar Pradesh. He appealed to the people to participate wholeheartedly in the mission.
गंदगी जो है किसी भी समाज के लिए एक अभिशाप है. इस अभियान में जुड़ रहा हूं. अपने यहाँ शौचालय बनाया है. ये कोई अपने घर की तरक्की नहीं है, प्रदेश की तरक्की नहीं है. ये राष्ट्र निर्माण का एक बहुत बड़ा संकल्प है, बहुत बड़ा काम है.
The campaign aims at mobilizing people and reinforcing the Jan Andolan for contribute to Mahatma Gandhi's dream of a clean India. Coordinated by the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, the initiative will encourage work from volunteers as well. Governor Ram Naik and Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath were also present at the program.
10 लाख से अधिक शौचालयों का निर्माण इस दौरान प्रदेश के अंदर हुआ. प्रतिदिन जो औसत शौचालयों के निर्माण वर्तमान में प्रदेश के अंदर चल रहा है, उनकी संख्या 15,000 है. और हम लोगों का लक्ष्य है कि इसकी गति को और बढ़ा करके 31 दिसंबर 2017 तक प्रदेश के अंदर 78 लाख शौचालयों का निर्माण करके हम स्वच्छ भारत को और तेज तीव्र गति देश के सबसे बड़े राज्य उत्तर प्रदेश के अंदर देंगे।
Earlier, the president paid tributes to BJP ideologue Deen Dayal Upadhyay at a park named after him in Lucknow. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also urged citizens to devote time to the Swachhta Hi Seva campaign, now asking people to work towards building a clean India. The Prime Minister in a tweet said that it would be the best tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. Thanking the President for leading and launching the Swachhta Hi Seva movement in Kanpur, the Prime Minister congratulated all those taking part in various initiatives. On to some other news now. Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu underscored the role of MPs in achieving the goals of sustainable development. Addressing a delegation of MPs from nearly 20 nations, Naidu said that eliminating poverty is the country's first priority and that the Niti Aayog is focusing all its efforts in this direction. Here are the details.
Parliamentarians from 20 countries, all associated with the fields of development and population, met Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Friday. Naidu said members of parliament have a big role in achieving sustainable development goals by 2030.
There is greater responsibility on the parliamentarians to prepare their respective countries mentally, because what is required is not only action by the government, but people's participation.
We have decided that the parliamentarians will use their influence with the government, concerned government, and interact with other MPs also, the government and the public also, so that the SDGs are achieved as per schedule.
The delegation comprised MPs of African and many Central Asian countries, besides Nepal, Bhutan and Japan. They were in New Delhi for a two-day conference that started on 13 September on enhancing the role of parliamentarians in the interlinkage between population issues and the 2030 agenda of sustainable development.
We have met many Indian members of parliament who have made presentation, who have explained us how they have implemented the measures on the sustainable development goals, how they are approaching, how they are trying to implement the main tasks of this program.
Parliamentarians should come forward and right from the implementation as well as in monitoring, we have to play a role. Without parliamentarians' involvement, I think it's not complete.
The chairman of the Indian Association of Parliamentarians on Population and Development presented a copy of the Delhi Declaration to the Vice President. The resolution emphasizes the role of Parliament to achieve the goals of sustainable development by 2030. Panchanan Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has also said that a national effort is needed to further strengthen the country's democratic foundations. He expressed concern over the use of money power in elections. He called on all political parties and voters, besides the Election Commission, to jointly end the menace. The Vice President also pitched for simultaneous polls for Lok Sabha, assemblies and local bodies. He said that this will ensure that the developmental work does not take a hit. He was addressing a gathering after releasing the book Loktantra Ke Utsav Ki Ankahi Kahani, authored by Dr. S.Y. Qureshi in New Delhi on Friday. The book is the Hindi translation of former Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi's book, An Undocumented Wonder, The Great Indian Election. The Chief Election Commissioner A.K. Jyoti and other dignitaries were also present on the occasion.
The voters should choose the candidates who have discipline, dynamism, dedication and devotion. That should be the yardsticks. Politics of caste, politics of community, politics of caste should be totally rejected. These 3 C's should be rejected, and 4 C's, character, caliber, capacity and conduct. They should influence the mind of the voter. In India, continuously election season, continuously election fever. Then focus of attention goes. Then development takes a big hit. This has to be understood by all. That's why this session of simultaneous elections for the parliament and various assemblies and local bodies.
And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu will undertake a 3-day tour of Hyderabad beginning today. On the first day of the visit, he will lay the foundation stone for the Regional Vocational Training Institute under the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship at Vidyanagar. He will also inaugurate the new campus of the Centre of Excellence of Institute of Company Secretaries of India at Uppal. The Vice President will return to Delhi on 18th of September. On to some other news now. The group of ministers set up to look into the technical issues faced by GST network will hold its first meeting in Bengaluru today. The GOM is headed by Bihar Deputy Chief Minister Sushil Kumar Modi. Now, the GST Council, the highest decision-making body of the new goods and services tax regime, had decided to form a 5-member panel to look into the technical glitches facing GST network. The GM was constituted on 12th of September. Other members of the GOM are Kerala Finance Minister Thomas Isaac, Chhattisgarh Minister of Commercial Taxes Amar Agarwal, Karnataka Agriculture Minister Krishna Gowda and Telangana Finance Minister Ethela Rajendra. Besides the ministers, the Revenue Secretary Hansmukh Adhiya, also GSTN Chairman Ajay Bhushan Pandey and GSTN CEO Prakash Kumar will attend this meeting. We'll take a very short break here. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
When it comes to research output, Indian institutions are doing very well. They are in the top 50, at least the older IITs. Technologies that one requires to fabricate a chip inside a mobile phone is exactly same as the technologies that you will require to fabricate the sensor for cardiac diagnosis or the sensors for explosive detection. Around that time, around 2005, we started asking the question, can we also do something for the Indian society, something which can make an impact in the society.
Watch Eureka with Professor V. Ram Gopal Rao, Director at Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Thanks for staying with us. The centre will file an affidavit in the Supreme Court on Monday on its plans to deport Rohingya Muslims from the country. Now, this was confirmed by Home Minister Rajnath Singh on Friday, a day after the Home Ministry denied the filing of any affidavit on this matter. Earlier this month, the Supreme Court had sought the centre's stand on a petition challenging its decision to deport Rohingyas back to Myanmar. The petition was filed by 2 Rohingya immigrants who challenged their deportation on several grounds, including violation of international human rights conventions. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj spoke to Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina over the phone and assured her of India's full support to Bangladesh's stance over Rohingya issue. She also spoke about India's persuading Myanmar both bilaterally and multilaterally to take back their refugees.
रोहिंग्या क्राइसिस पर राजनीति हो रही है, क्या कहेंगे आप इस पर? अब देखिए, जो भी एफिडेविट फाइल करनी है, हम लोग 18 तारीख को एफिडेविट फाइल करेंगे.
And now an update on the situation in Darjeeling. Now 12 Gorkhaland Jan Mukti Morcha supporters were arrested after they clashed with the police in Kalimpong in Darjeeling on Friday. The clash occurred after GJP supporters attacked a school bus and they ransacked several shops there. Police later baton charged the protesters and arrested them. The GJP supporters were on the streets of Kalimpong trying to enforce the indefinite shutdown on the 93rd day on Friday. The police say that they initially tried to pacify JJM supporters, but they were pelted with stones that left a few personnel also injured. JJM Chief Bibal Gurung had asked his party men to intensify the ban. He had said that the shutdown will continue till a tripartite meeting was convened by the central government. News from down south. The Madras High Court has asked the Election Commission to decide on the party symbol of the AIADMK before 31st of October. The poll body had frozen the 2 leaves symbol after 2 factions of the AIADMK staked claim to it. The court directed the poll body to decide which faction in the ruling party in the state enjoyed the majority and allot the symbol to it. The court said that there was an urgency to decide the matter in view of the local body elections in the state to be completed before 17th of November. The court order came on a petition by an AIADMK member seeking a direction to conduct an election among the party's General Council and Executive Committee and MLAs and MPs totaling 3,100 to decide who enjoyed the majority. The petition was filed after Palanisamy and Paneerselvam factions merged, sidelining V.K. Sasikala and his deputy TTV Dinakaran. On to some other news. The Haryana government has agreed to hand over the Ryan International School murder case to the CBI. Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar made the announcement after meeting the parents of the victim on Friday. Now, Khattar also said that the state government will also take over the management of the school for the next 3 months. The Deputy Commissioner Vinay Pratap Singh will be in charge of the school during this period. 7-year-old Pradyuman Thakur's parents had been demanding that the investigation be handed over to the CBI since they believe that the murder was planned. While a bus conductor has been arrested for the murder, the parents claimed that there are a lot of loopholes in the case. On a Thursday, the Gurugram police also served notices to the owners of Ryan International School, Augustine Pinto, as well as his wife, Grace Pinto, asking them to join the investigation. The Pintos have been asked to share school records as well as documents under Section 91 of the CRPC.
बहुत से नेता समाज के बहुत से लोगों ने एक मांग रखी है कि इस केस को सीबीआई को सौंपा जाए। वैसे हरियाणा पुलिस इसमें बहुत अच्छी प्रकार से अपनी सारी इन्वेस्टिगेशन कर रही है, फिर भी इस मांग के आधार के ऊपर इस केस को सीबीआई को जांच के लिए सौंपा जाता है कि स्कूल का ये जो मैनेजमेंट का काम है अभी 3 महीने के लिए इसको टेक ओवर किया जाता है और हमारे डिप्टी कमिश्नर वो अपनी देखरेख में इस स्कूल की जितनी भी कमियां हैं उन व्यवस्थाओं को ठीक कराएंगे और जो जांच है उसमें भी पूरा सहयोग किया जाएगा।
On to some international news now. The UK terror threat has been increased to its highest level after a device was detonated at a Parsons Green station in southwest London yesterday. Now, Islamic State has said that it was behind the attack, which injured 29 persons. Now, initial investigations indicate that an IED was placed inside the train and it was intended to cause much greater damage, but it malfunctioned and detonated only partially. Meanwhile, manhunt continues for the perpetrators.
Military to be deployed on the streets in London. Number of Scotland Yard also to be increased at key locations and crowded places. This after terror threat level in the UK was raised from severe to critical following an explosion on one of the city's underground trains on Friday morning. The terror threat level of critical means that another attack is considered to be imminent.
For this period, military personnel will replace police officers on guard duties at certain protected sites which are not accessible to the public. The public will see more armed police on the transport network and on our streets, providing extra protection.
Islamic State claimed responsibility for the blast that occurred during the morning rush hour at about 8:20 a.m. at Parsons Green Tube Station. At least 29 people were hurt, most of the injuries being flash burns, but not serious or life-threatening. At present, some residents who were evacuated from their homes around the stations have been allowed to return. The site of the incident is still cordoned off and subway station remains out of service. Pictures taken at the scene showed a slightly charred white bucket with a supermarket bag on the floor of the train carriage. The bomb appeared not to have gone off properly.
This was a partially functioned IED or improvised explosive device. Something went wrong either in terms of the composition of the device. Normally, if it was IS, they use a preferred explosive called TATP, triacetone triperoxide. So either the mix, the chemical composition of that went wrong, or the detonator wasn't powerful enough to give a boost for this.
A major manhunt is underway in London for suspects in what police are calling a terrorist incident. No arrests have been made so far. Hundreds of detectives are working on the inquiry with the support of Britain's domestic intelligence service MI5.
We're making excellent progress at the moment as we pursue our lines of inquiry to identify, to locate and to arrest those responsible. We're only aware of one device So we now have the remnants of that device. It's been examined by our experts. We're chasing down suspects.
The attack has been condemned by world leaders. US President Donald Trump spoke to British Prime Minister Theresa May to convey his sympathies for those injured. He also pledged to continue close collaboration with the UK to stop attacks and combat extremism.
No, it's a terrible thing. This keeps going and going. And we have to be very smart. We have to be very, very tough, which perhaps we're not nearly tough enough.
The UN stands in solidarity with the people and government of the United Kingdom, and we hope the perpetrator will be quickly brought to justice.
The Ministry of External Affairs in India has also offered assistance to any Indians who might have been affected by the blast. Friday's blast came after 3 deadly attacks in London this year: Westminster Bridge, London Bridge and Finsbury Park, and one in Manchester at the concert of US pop singer Ariana Grande. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. On to news from Nigeria now, where at least 33 people drowned after an overloaded boat carrying them capsized. The incident took place in northwest Nigeria, according to the National Emergency Management on Wednesday morning. The boat carrying traders was travelling from Niger to the Kebbi state when the tragedy struck. Reports say that while the boat had a capacity of 70 passengers, 150 people and their goods were on board. Now 84 people have been rescued while 23 others are still missing. Rescuers are presuming them to be dead. And 6 people have been killed in Vietnam as a typhoon Doksuri battered the country's central region. The typhoon, with its violent winds, which reached up to 135 kilometers per hour, blew away the roofs of tens of thousands of houses and caused blackouts and telecommunication interruptions in many areas. Now, Typhoon Doksuri also forced over 30 flights and many train journeys to be cancelled and sank 9 vessels as well. The typhoon made landfall in Ha Tinh province, pounding 6 coastal districts and destroying the roofs of 62,500 houses here, and caused heavy rains in several other provinces as well. Ahead of the landfall, nearly 80,000 people had been evacuated from Vietnam's densely populated coastal strip. Now, Doksuri had earlier swept through the Philippines on Tuesday as a less powerful tropical depression, killing at least 4 people and leaving 6 others missing. And on to sports news now. Elite athletes preparing for Tokyo Olympics, Asian Games as well as Commonwealth Games will now receive a stipend of 50,000 rupees per month to meet their expenses. Now, this comes after the Sports Ministry accepted the recommendations of the Olympic Task Force headed by Abhinav Bindra. The government has selected 152 elite athletes under the Target Olympic Podium scheme. Now, all the athletes will get benefited from this decision. The stipend will be paid with effect from 1st of September.
So we are happy to announce the Ministry of Sports has considered an out-of-pocket allowance for 152 athletes. These are our top athletes. And all the training expenses will be taken care of. All the training programs as is will be taken care of. This is just purely an out-of-pocket allowance so that whatever minor expenditure is happening, they have this money readily available to them and they can focus on their training.
More good news from the world of badminton now is player PV Sindhu has progressed to the semi-finals of the women's singles at the Korea Open Super Series tournament in Seoul. Now, Olympic silver medalist Sindhu beat world number 19 Minatsu Mitani of Japan in 3 games, 21-19, 16-21, 21-10. Sindhu, who is now the sole Indian left in the tournament, will face either 3rd seed Sung Ji-hyun or China's He Bingjiao. While in the men's singles tournament, Samir Verma lost to top seed Son Wan of Korea in 3 games, 22-20, 10-21, 13-21 in the quarterfinals. That's all in this edition of news. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day ahead.